In the previous lesson, you learned how to render all the news from Hacker News API, and this is server-side render because we used get initial props to load this news. Okay, you can have a look in the page source, and you see it is server-side rendered. Okay, beautiful. Now let's add a search form so that users can type in what topics they want to get all the news from. Okay, so let's go to our news page here, and let's create a form here. Okay, so const search form equals to, we're going to add a search form here. Okay, so create a form. On submit, we will execute a method which we need to create next. Let's call it handle submit. And in this form we will have input with the type of text, and the value we need to grab from the state which we need to create next. Okay, and on change, what we want to do, we also need to use a method. Let's call it handle text change. Okay, so we want to use the use state hook, right? So let's bring that in. Let's do it on top. Import use state from React. Then here const, we can call it search query, and then method to set that using set search query equals to use state, and by default let's give a value of React. Okay, so the search query by default it will be React, but obviously users will be able to change that. Okay, so whenever there is something happening in the input field, we would like to grab that event target value using this method handle text change, right? So let's create that. Const handle text change will take event as an argument. Then we want to set the search query based on whatever user is typing in, right? So set search query, this time it's going to be event target value. Okay, now when the form is submitted on handle submit, what we want to do, const handle submit, we also grab the event. First of all, we need to prevent the default behavior of the browser so that it doesn't reload the page. Prevent default. Then what we want to do is whatever the user have typed in, that information we want to push to the router. And the reason we're doing that is this has to be server-side rendered application, right? So only when we push the search query, for example React or whatever that is, we push that to the router, and this get initial props here, we're going to grab that information from the router query. Okay, and based on that we will fetch the news with server-side rendering. Okay, and that is what we're trying to do here. So router dot push. Okay, this time it's going to be, let's use backticks / news / what search term is going to be, it's going to be search query. Okay, we push the search query to this URL news / the search term with the name of search term, and the value will be search query. To use this router, we need to import from the next router. Okay, so import router from next router. Okay, now whenever the form is submitted, this search query will be available in the route with the name of search term. So we can grab that in the get initial props here. We can grab query, you can do context.query or just destructure straight away query, and then let's use template string here. Let's copy, use backticks, and then instead of the hard-coded value of React, we can grab that information from the route query. Okay, so query dot search term. So we will get the server-side rendered news based on user search term. Okay, now let's also make sure we have the value in the input field. So the value will be search query. Okay, beautiful. So we have the search form, we have the handle text change that set the search query, and on submit we push the search query with the name of search term in the router. Then we grab that using the query.search term in the get initial props, and based on that we load the news. Okay, beautiful. Now in this example you saw how we didn't use the use effect that we would normally use in the regular React application, and instead use get initial props. Okay, so let's give it a try. But before we do that, obviously we need to render this form, search form, right? So here, right after the title, we have the horizontal line. We can show the search form here. Okay, then one more horizontal line. Okay, beautiful. Let's give it a try. Okay, so we have the search form here. Now we can try searching for PHP, hit enter, and you see we have a list of news based on PHP. Okay, that's beautiful because the search term has been grabbed from the router, and based on that this get initial prop ran this code, and as a result we got the proper news based on the search term. Okay, so that's beautiful, right? We can also add a button here. Form, let's add a button. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, that looks better. Okay, Laravel, hit search, and we get that list of news based on Laravel, which is coming from the route parameter. Beautiful. Let's continue in the next lesson where we can learn more about handling the input fields. Okay, so in this example we just have one field, so it's easy, right? But what if we have many input fields? Like in a bigger form you might have one input for the name, one for email, one for password, and so on. And in that case you don't want to create 10 different handle submit method to handle those input fields, right? So in the next lesson I will show you how you can use the single handle change event to handle multiple inputs. All right, I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.